Hey y'all,
and welcome to an episode of the Trail Podcast. My name's Lawrence, and this is Beth. She's taking a drink of water right now. She's taking a swig of the old pea jar. No, that was the water one. We left the pea one at home.
What? Okay.
Yeah, don't worry about it. So, we're actually going to start this episode on the trail.
Yeah. We were talking and we got a little bits the way in.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So, we're in a philosophical mood today. Or at least I am. I mean, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty philosophical.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm having a good day.
You always get philosophical on the weekends.
Yeah. I'm having a pretty good day. I woke up at 6 a.m. and then for the first 5 hours of my day, I really didn't know what to do. I yo-yoed for an hour, and I wish I took a picture of it, but I got this wicked ring around where the yo-yo string goes.
Yeah.
It was so deep. I feel like I'm permanently injuring myself every time I yo-yo, because at the end, the yo-yo string is always in a groove that's super deep in
there's
there.
a spider on that mushroom.
There's a spider on that mushroom.
That is so cool. Wow. That's like a Halloween prop.
It's like a omen. It's like God.
Like God right
sent
there.
that message to us.
Were you able to
I
figure
love
out the candy rain?
I didn't get there yet. I'm still trying to master the magic drop.
Mm-hmm.
Which I made the progress on today.
Nice.
Made a lot of progress on it yesterday. And this morning, I would say I made as much progress on it today. A lot of yo-yoing I found out is a lot of what I need to keep track of.
It's practice.
Is that, well, yeah.
Wow.
What I realized I wasn't doing before
You're
was...
walking faster now.
Yeah. Because I don't want to pull you back with my body. So anyway. So I'm trying to keep track of the plane in which I'm working. Because sometimes the yo-yo will tilt and that'll shift the plane, but I won't stand any differently. I slipped a little bit there.
Slip. Stand.
Stand. Yeah. But so I won't stand any differently, and then I'll miss the string later when I go to, because my hand is not level with where I'm swinging it. So I'll be out here and I'll swing it this way, and it'll miss in front. So just really getting that.
That's a really cool observation.
Really watching the yo-yo and watching where it wants to go and where it wants to play.
That's cute. It's like the yo-yo is like a kid or something.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's like being a parent.
I had a really nice conversation with Jose, one of my coworkers.
Oh, tell me about it.
It was after we went whitewater rafting. And the way it worked is that you whitewater rafted for a few miles, and then they picked you up on this ferry. And then you sat on the ferry and you ate lunch as they boat you back up the river to where you got into the river.
Oh, yeah?
That way they can drive you back.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And after we had eaten, I was kind of bored, so I went downstairs because everybody else was super tired, and I wasn't that tired. So I was trying to find other people who were, willing to talk, And we were at the trash can, and I made a yo mama joke to Jose, and he was like, "Don't diss my mother." And I was like, "Okay, I'm sorry." And he was all like, "I know you weren't serious, but just as a heads up, I am protective of my mother." And we had just this nice conversation about parents and stuff and communication, because he's taking a communications class, and he says that a lot of it is common sense stuff that you should talk to people when you're upset and be honest about your motivations, but why don't you apply it?
Yeah.
And he was talking about how, we're sometimes a little bit too comfortable with, making jokes about people's parents and stuff, even though we, don't know anything about it, and, we can be too judgmental. And then I was like, yeah, I probably am too judgmental of my parents, but it's because, they've done things that really upset me, and I'm, salty about it. And he was like, that's the thing, is that I heard this quote somewhere, and, he couldn't quote it exactly, and thus I can't even quote his paraphrasing, but to paraphrase a paraphrase of a quote that is being telephoned harder than Graham Bell.
I love you.
Thank you. It was just basically they're parents and they have their own problems. Everybody has problems and everybody has stuff going on. The problem is that with parents, you can all too easily pass it on to a new person. And that's the difference, is that with, like, other people, you know, you can talk about your problems and be imperfect, and there's not as high of a standard as there is with parents, because since you're dealing with something that impressionable and that dependent upon you, you know, child, you have to be, like, more careful. And, you know, these pains and these, like, problems that we have towards our parents, like, they don't come from nothing. They come from somewhere. But, like, we should still have empathy to match, you know?
You mean towards our parents?
Yeah. Like, it's okay to acknowledge the fact that, like, you're mad at your parents and you have these negative views of your parents because they genuinely did something wrong, you know? Like, it's not coming out of nowhere. Like, you're upset at them for a reason. But you should also have empathy for the fact that, like, what they're doing is, like, a necessarily hard thing that, like, it's almost impossible to, like, properly raise someone, you know? Like, it's really hard. And, you know, it's that same old thing about, like, it shouldn't be an excuse. It should just be a reason, you know? Like, you shouldn't be using that to, like, let them get away with doing things that, like, make you upset. But, like, you should use it to have some more patience about, like, yeah, they've done stuff that makes me upset, but I'm still gonna be grateful for what they did, you know?
Yeah, just, you're saying, like, just the nature of the job of being a parent is, like, is subject to flaws due to how long they're in term.
And also just, like, and just the fact of, like, who they're working for, you know?
Us.
Like, look, if I have...
Poopy.
What?
Poopy on the side.
Oh, thank you. I really wanted to look at that. Like, if I tell you my problems, and if I tell you how I'm struggling, like, we're on an equal playing field. And you can take that and just, like, appreciate it as, like, me being a person, and you can separate my problems from your problems, you know, to a certain extent. And so I don't pass on my problems to you. You're just able to help me, and I'm able to help you. But, like, with a kid, since they're, first off, impressionable, like, their brain isn't developed all the way, and they're dependent upon you, like, if I tell a kid my problems, like, it's just so easy to then just, like, pass my problems on to them, you know?
Yeah.
And then when you, like, have a mentally unhealthy parent, it affects you. You know, and that also gets to the same thing about, like, parents are taught that since, I don't know, this is necessarily true because haven't been a parent yet, but I feel like parents are taught that because a child is dependent upon you, you should be dependent upon the child. You know, like, that's almost what it feels like.
Like, what does that mean?
Like, parents are taught, like, don't have friends, just spend time with your kids, just be happy with being with your kids and spending time with them, you know? And, you know, give everything to your kids, and then make your kids your everything.
I'm trying to digest that.
Like, I feel like we're almost taught that if you have a kid, your happiness must be dependent upon your kid.
I don't know if I quite have
Had that experience?
well, I don't know if I've absorbed that from our culture, just because I haven't been in the parent situation. I'm kind of wondering how you have.
Well, I think about the rhetoric, because, like, my mom's very open in talking about how, like, her life has sucked, and she's in a very bad position, and she's not where she wants to be for herself, but she says that she's happy because she has kids. And she says that her life is worth it because she has kids, you know?
Yeah.
Like, she basically says her whole life has meaning, and she is happy right now because she has kids and she was able to, you know, take care of them. And I feel like that's a rhetoric that you see about, like, you can't say that, yeah, I'm a parent and I'm a good parent, but I don't like that I have kids and I don't like having kids. You know, or that, like, having kids doesn't make me happy. Like, the second you have kids, you're expected to just be all like, my happiness comes from my kids.
Okay.
I have a happy life and I am happy because I have kids.
Gotcha. Okay. So,
and that, like, it makes you dependent upon the child for your happiness.
Right. Okay.
So you can't parent them right.
I think I understand what you mean. I do kind of agree with society in that we say if you have kids, you know, one of your many purposes in life should be to raise these kids and to wish them the best in life and everything.
If you're going to have a kid.
Yeah. Then your purpose should be to do that.
And I
think
have...
where society goes too far is that it says, this is your only purpose.
Yes, and this is what
this-
makes you happy, and this is what fulfills you.
Right. And so,
And I mean have as in, like, keep a kid, not as in, like, give birth.
yeah,
Because sometimes, you know,
yeah,
like, you can give birth to a kid and then, like, realize it's not for you, and then if you find a way to, like, give that kid a good life, then, like, you know, that's good, you know?
Yeah.
If you give birth to a kid, your life shouldn't be devoted to them. But if you decide that you want to keep a child and raise a child, you know,
yeah,
you should focus on raising them right.
right. And I think there's often, like, kind of, I don't know, simplifying that happens with people, where they think that we can only have one passion and one purpose in life.
Yeah.
Right. And so they see, you know, you're not happy, but you have kids. Right.
Yeah.
Therefore, you know, the purpose in your life, kids, is what's making you unhappy. And that shouldn't happen. Right. But maybe, you know, your purpose, like, you know, maybe your career as an aspiring journalist didn't work out. You know, and so now you're kind of like, you know, stuck in your own path and, you know, missing out on your own fulfillment. But
That's like how, like, you know those, to just talk about a stereotype, like Christian stay-at-home moms, you know?
Yeah.
Where, like, their whole existence is that they're a good mom, you know? And they care for their kids and they just love their little angels, you know? And
Right.
it's like, more often than not, you actually look at how they parent their kids and, like, they're not that good, you know? Because, like, they've made their happiness dependent upon their children.
Uh-huh.
And that just leads to unhealthy parenting.
Right. And I think, I mean, even for the next generation too, like, that teaches them how their mother should be.
Yeah.
Right. And, like, God forbid that child have a dream. Like, right?
Or God forbid your child gets upset and says that they hate you or that you're a bad parent, you know? And then your whole life is just thrown into the wind because you've built your entire life around finding fulfillment and happiness out of being a parent. So if you're not a good parent, then you've lost that fulfillment, you know?
Right. Yeah. And, I mean, everything has its ebbs and flows.
Mm-hmm.
Like, nothing is going to be purely great and nothing's going to be great forever.
And nothing's gonna suck forever.
Right. Which is why I think as people, we've kind of developed the ability to, like, you know, spread out our interests. So while one thing's going bad, you know, maybe one friend, you know, you're fighting with a friend. Well, that's fine because you've got
Go talk to your other friend,
a whole
you know?
bunch of friends. Right.
Mm-hmm.
You get a big support network. And I think support networks extend to more than just talking to people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it might extend to, like, hobbies and passions and
Or
purposes in
animals.
life. So, like, you know, if you make your kid your whole thing, you know, they're gonna, like, not want to put on their shoes in the car or something. Like,
Yeah.
and that's gonna be that's gonna be stressful for you.
And, like, this is the thing that we've experienced, that
okay.
whenever you become the everything for one person, like, you don't enjoy that. Like if your friend or if your significant other is saying
Right.
that, like, you're their everything, like, in the serious way, you know, not in, like, the sweet way that isn't really true, but, like, we say it's true, but, like, in a serious way, like, that sucks.
Right.
It's too much pressure, and it's worse for a kid. And why does becoming a parent almost inherently lead to isolation? Like, I feel like that's what I've seen.
Yeah, I guess I don't know, just because it takes up so much of your time, maybe, and, like,
I guess also because you're
maybe
told to
you just
give
don't-
everything to your kid.
yeah, and maybe you just don't understand its value. Like, I mean, I think certainly as a baby, for the first, like, few years, you know, maybe then, you know, you're not really teaching your child anything bad, you know, by spending time with them.
But,
And
like, even then, it's not good for you and it cuts you off.
right, it's not good for you. I mean, I don't know. I mean, perhaps for the first 3 years, it's so fulfilling. Because, right? I don't know.
I think, I don't know, I think that you should never give everything to your kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know that sounds bad, but, like, when you give everything to your kids, the amount of stuff that you can give to your kids is just gonna keep shrinking.
Yeah.
The only way that, like, you'll give more to your children if you don't give them everything than you will if you give them everything.
Yeah.
Because you just lose what you can draw from and lose what you can give them.
Yeah.
You know? To make it, like, a more practical, quantifiable thing, like, If you give all of your social interactions to your children, you can give them the experience of one person, you. But if you give some of your social interactions to other people, say like 3 other people, you can now provide them with the perspective of 4 different people. Because you can pass on the perspective of the other 3. But you can only do that if you don't give your child everything. And you reserve some to give to other people.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Diversify your portfolio.
Mm-hmm. Enough said.
Enough said. I feel like that was not that long. I feel like we walked in there for half an hour, and we've walked out in 10 minutes.
Right, yeah. That's probably what we did because we started recording like halfway back. I think.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe a quarter of the way back. And then plus we have this whole bit that we're walking now.
Being a human is just so complex and so hard. And I think that we need to move from hating people to hating complexity.
Explain that a little bit more.
Like when my dad didn't parent me well.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't. And I could hate him. But having hate in any way just leads to you being unhappy, honestly.
Yeah.
I believe that. But like having hate towards him, all that does is make my life worse, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like all that does is it makes me upset because now not only do I have a failing dad, but I have a failing dad who I hate. Mm-hmm. And that just brings me more pain and it stops me from moving on. And it stops me from understanding him, and understanding him would help me get resolution in what I went through.
Yeah.
So instead of hating him, I should hate the complexities of life and the complexities of being human. The complexities of he grew up in a bad house and so now he is like this, and he was in a society that promoted toxic masculinity, so he couldn't go to therapy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and there's all these factors in life that led to him being the way he was. And truly, it's not his fault that he was that way. Because to say it was his fault is to say that if he was put into a different situation, that he would act the exact same and be equally as terrible, which I don't believe. I believe that every person, you know, while they have things that will stay the same, if you put them in a different situation, they can be different people. They can be better people. You know, he is the way he is because of all the complex, annoying factors that make being a human so hard.
Yeah.
And when you do that, it also gives you power to change yourself more. Because when you see the way people act and you hate people and you think of them as like who someone is and the way they act is ingrained in who they are, it also sort of makes you feel like the way that you act is ingrained in who you are.
Right.
But if you grow to the idea that people are the way they are because of the complexities of being alive and a human, and a lot of our flaws are because of that,
yeah,
then it allows you to also harness that for yourself to realize, like, these flaws that I have aren't because of me. Like, there's nothing wrong with me as a human being. You know? There are these complications in life that have made me less perfect, and that allows me to then look at what those complexities are and fight them better than just trying to, like, fight myself, you know?
Right. And the complexities, I think, living with those complexities and trying to understand all of them and failing, and that pain, that makes you realize that life is, I think, for people too complex to comprehend, and so the only option we have left is for compassion.
Yes. And, like, to live, right?
Yeah.
Like, life is too complex for you to understand, fully break down, and fix all of the insane things that are leading to the negative aspects of the life and the negative aspects of your actions and personalities. Like, it's just not possible, you know? That's why, like, looking at, you know, sexism and the male gaze or ableism and all that stuff, that's why it's so insanely complex and difficult and just hard, you know? Because, like, truly we can't understand it all. And that's not to say that we shouldn't try to understand it. It's to say that, like, we almost need to, like, separate it, you know? I don't know. Like, we need to learn to live our lives and to change ourselves in a more abstract, almost closed-minded sense, you know? I don't know. I'm not explaining it super well, but, like, when you go through your everyday today and you're trying to change your actions... Is that a dookie with flies all over it?
I think it is. But I can't be sure.
Maybe it's a baby root.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, when you're going through life, you can't try to be understanding all of the factors and all the complexities that influence you as who you are.
Yeah.
I mean, I really believe that balance is the real way to go. Like, I think balance is the ultimate thing. Nothing ever works good in extremes. You almost sort of, like, you know what I said before about, like, you need to separate who you are, like, from the complexities and stuff? When you're living your everyday to-day life, you need to live yourselves and, like, almost talk to people in a sense of, like, just people, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And not complexities.
Yeah.
You just need to be able to just relax and live life and do things and just not think about everything that much, you know, and try not to think about the reason why everything is the way it is, and just sort of, like, live life and do things and keep moving. And then while doing that, you should also take time to reflect and notice those complexities. And when you try to change your actions around those complexities, you shouldn't always be constantly thinking, like, oh, these are all the factors that are influencing me and this is why I'm, like, acting like it. No, you should just do the actions that you want to do.
Yeah.
And then take time after those actions to reflect on, like, why did I do those actions? What were the influences? What would I like to do? You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just think it would be very useful for people to stop judging people, either positively or negatively, through a sense of that being a part of who they are, and more of thinking about the factors that influence. I mean, that's just... you know, fundamental attribution error.
Right. But no, it's...
I'm just discovering that in a
about.
more meaningful sense.
Right.
And that's even more getting into, like, Buddhist territory, where it's like, what even is you, you know?
I don't know that it is. I think that was quite a leap.
Well, no, like, Buddhism says that they're, like, there isn't a you, there isn't a soul, there isn't a self.
Yes.
Right?
It does say that.
And, like...
How is that related?
Because I'm basically saying, like, you shouldn't judge a person off of, like, you're a bad person, because there is no you. There's only the actions and the complexities around this human form that is making these actions. So it's sort of like I'm saying, there is no you, there is no people, there's only action and consequences, which is kind of like what Buddhism says. Which is, there is no self, there's just, like, a being, an action, a flame, I don't know.
Yeah.
Buddhism's weird, it's cool.
You know what? I think the audience totally understood what you meant.
But yeah. It's almost weird how to be more compassionate with people. What are you doing? Oh. I thought you were bending over one of my nails and I was about to yell at you. It's almost weird that to be a train. It's almost weird that I'll say this sentence, I swear to God. It is almost peculiar. The fact that, to provide the most empathy to the most beings in the most sincerest of fashions, one must separate the idea of humility from themselves.
Wow.
I was doing good, that was it.
That was powerful. And now,
Train.
Flies on a poop.
But no, what I was trying to say is it's almost weird that to be more empathetic towards people, you need to think of them not as people. Like, if that makes sense.
To try to circumvent.
Yeah. Because, like, if you...
Error.
Yeah, like, if you think about them as just, like, people in the sense of, like, that, then you just lead to you being unempathetic and just thinking of them as, like, oh, that's a racist person, that's a sexist person, or that's a mean person, you know? And when you do that, like, you're not empathetic because you're attributing these negative things that they've done to you to their personality. Mm-hmm. But, like, if you think of it instead as, like, you know, oh, they're just a victim of circumstances, or oh, they're just a victim of where they raised. If you think of them less as like people with these traits and more of just like bodies that have been influenced by the environment around them, you can almost be more empathetic.
Yeah.
If you think of them not as people.
Yeah.
You know, not in like the racist way where it's all like they're animals, but in the way of like we're all just canvases being painted by the brushes of our surroundings.
Ooh. I like that. Except, I think, you know, you ignore the fact that you can brush your surroundings and other canvases as well.
Yeah.
You know?
The whole world is just a grand tapestry.
Life, yeah.
It's just a bunch of canvases that fit together. And each canvas has a brush on it. And we're just brushing each other up.
You've painted me the most, right?
Yeah. And every canvas looks different, and every canvas looks completely disoriented, but when they all go together, they just create a beautiful, harmonious picture. It's like those composite pictures where, like, you know, every picture fits together and then it makes a bigger picture. Mm-hmm. It's like that.
Well said.
I know, I'm so smart and
you
philosophical.
You are so smart.
Yeah. I don't know. When I feel disconcerted and kind of sad in a weird way, it helps me to talk more philosophically because it's almost like it helps me understand the world and feel like I understand what I'm feeling and like what causes it better. You know, like I feel like part of what that sadness is just because there's a lot of unknowns and a lot of things that I don't know, and I just sort of feel trapped and confused, and it helps me to just sort of in some small way talk about this stuff and just figure out a little bit of life to just feel more comforted and less terrified by the unknown.
Yeah. I think the reason why philosophers and logicians are different professions are because humans are just too complex to even try to understand and put rules to.
Mm-hmm. I'm also thinking about like how there's just so many.
You can't figure out what.
There's so many annoying things in this world, and one of them is like the idea of like you said it. Humans are so complex. Mm-hmm. You know, we're such this integrated, insane system that it is completely stupid and illogical to try to put any system in place for it.
Yeah.
You know? And so, like, the idea that, like...
Laws? I can't park wherever I feel like?
Okay. No, but, like, to say that philosophy is this or that, like, you know, some people would listen to what I'm saying and they'd be like, that's not real philosophy. You know, like, you're not using, you know, modes of thinking and all this other stuff. Like, it's stupid, you know? Like, we need to embrace more ambiguity and more indecision and more variability in our lives. Because, like, I was also thinking about how I watched this video that I was telling you about before, where it's like, there was this conspiracy theory going around that Helen Keller was fake, and that really she couldn't talk, and she was just a parrot for her teachers. And it's really terrible, and it's really ableist, and it's really bad. It's really bad.
She could talk, though, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. She could.
She was blind, deaf, and couldn't... So they didn't think Helen Keller wasn't, like, blind and deaf. They thought that she also was mute.
No. They thought she was blind and deaf, so there was no way she could have learned to talk, and she could have done those speeches and written books. They thought that she was blind and deaf, and somebody just taught her to make noises, and then they made her make whatever noises, you know, said what they wanted to. So basically, like, oh yeah, she made words that sounded like talking, but really she didn't know what she was doing. She was just repeating whatever sounds her teacher told her to, so her teacher could push her communism. It's really terrible stuff. But, like, you know, I was thinking about it, and what makes me so annoyed is, like, the idea of, like, picking one mode of communication and saying, that's the right one. And it's so institutionalized. You know? Like, what's up with the fact that, like, everybody needs to know how to talk, even if, like, you're deaf and blind, and so, like, learning to talk is super stupid hard, and it would be better just to do tactile language, like signing. you know? But like, oh, that can't be accepted. You have to learn how to talk. But also, talking is nothing compared to writing. Writing is better, and, you know, everybody has to be able to write well. And if you can't write and you can only talk eloquently, then you're trash, and you're not going to make it anywhere in the world. You got to learn how to write, loser. It's so stupid, especially now that we have, like, technology that can, like, record things, you know?
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason for why everybody needs to know how to write. Just videotape yourself talking and then have somebody else write that down. Like, get over yourselves.
Right.
Let me just talk essays. Don't make me write them.
Yeah, really, this is a personal gripe with my English teacher. She won't let me just videotape.
Yeah. But it's like the same thing. Like, if you know how to do sign language and you want to write a book, why can't you just, like, do the sign language and just have that recorded and that just, like, counts as you having written an essay? Why does it have to be written down?
I don't know, because you can edit it, I guess, and so that automatically makes it better. Like, harder to review. Right, sign language, maybe. Oh no, they're all leaving. Oh, something happened. Oh no. Is that a bee?
Kind of looks like it, yeah.
One of them's like a
But like to that, I would say that you could just, like, edit videos, you know?
Yeah.
Or just rehearse sentences. Like, I don't know. I think there's a lot of systems in this world that are built around the idea of, like, narrowing people down to make the complexities of this world more understandable and easy to handle.
Yeah.
And that's just stupid because it doesn't work and it just leads to problems. So instead of trying to make the world something easier to handle, we should just learn how to handle the world for what it is. Which is super complex and confusing and you'll never really understand it, but that's okay. You don't have to. You just have to try and you just have to work on understanding little bits at a time in a way that makes you feel comfortable and that also leads to the greater understanding. And you'll never understand it all, but that's okay because the more that you understand, the better it is.
Love you.
I love you too.
What do you think, listeners?
I have thoughts.
Let us know in the comments below.
Yes.
And, you know, maybe we'll read some.
And maybe we'll listen to some, and that will count as reading.
Yeah, maybe we'll do that.
Next time on the Trail Podcast.
Have a good day, y'all.
Deep thinker.